It's finally Friday, time now for another Discuss vid. Today, we're going to discuss what went wrong in Grand Theft Auto Online. And I realize that there are most likely other content creators out there within the Grand Theft Auto community that have most likely made similar vids. I have not watched any of those videos, but just wanted to point that out. Nothing is original anymore. And this is my points of view, my thoughts, my opinion regarding this discussed topic. And if it turns out that they had similar points of view, then as they say, great minds think alike. But anyways, feel free to let me know below in the comments section, in your opinion, what went wrong with Grand Theft Auto Online? Or is it perfectly fine the way it is? You're welcome to make a counterpoint as well below in the comments section. So Grand Theft Auto Online is nearly 5 years old. It launched October 2013 on last gen, and I've been playing it since the beginning, so I have a pretty good idea about how things have changed over the past nearly 5 years now, from last gen to current gen to PC. Tons of content has been added to this game. Several updates. I think it's, what, over 30 updates? That's very impressive. And this is still an extremely popular game going on nearly 5 years. Millions of people still playing every week. Rockstar and Take-Two making lots of money. So there's a very real possibility that we'll see more content coming even after the launch of Red Dead Redemption 2. Maybe even a new DLC before Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out. Maybe late September, maybe early October. There's speculation out there. I hope it's true because we're running out of drip-fed content, but I guess only time will tell. So, where did Grand Theft Auto Online go wrong? I would like to start in late 2014, the Festive Surprise update, the very first Festive Surprise update, when Rockstar introduced the homing launcher. Now, this isn't really too far off the beaten path from Rockstar. There was the RPG already, along with the minigun, the Buzzard attack helicopter, the Rhino tank, the laser, even though you couldn't buy it at the time. There was obviously militarized vehicles in the game. Way more now than there were back in 2013, 2014, but there was a few. The issue with the homing launcher was you didn't have to be a certain rank to buy it. Whereas with the RPG, you had to be rank 100. With the minigun, you had to be rank 120. The homing launcher, you could just go buy it from your ammunition. And you could use it to shoot everybody. Other players, whether they were just driving around in their sweet supercar, muscle car, sports car, or flying around in a regular helicopter like a Maverick, a Frogger, or in a Mallard plane, or a Luxor, and you could knock them out of the skies. And unfortunately, a lot of the civilian aircraft, helicopters, and planes don't have flares or countermeasures. They only added that later on with the Smuggler's Run update. So they're pretty easy targets to be taken out by a homing rocket launcher. To Rockstar's credit, over time they did nerf the homing launcher, but this was just the beginning. And by comparison, it's small potatoes to what was eventually added to the game. But you could very well say that the homing launcher was where it kind of sort of began. At the very least, it should have been nerfed the way it is now at the start, whenever it came out in Festive Surprise, and there should have been a rank to it, like maybe rank 80 or something. But anyways, that was the first thing that started, in my opinion, shifting Grand Theft Auto Online in a little bit different direction, even though it's kind of a small thing. But usually it's the small steps that lead towards bigger ones. Next, the adversary modes, which were added courtesy of the Heist update. So we were waiting a while for the Heist updates to come out. They were supposed to be at the launch of the game. There was issues. Rockstar had to scrap them a few times, according to inside sources. But eventually, in the spring of 2015, we finally got the Heist update. But along with the Heist update, we also got adversary modes. Now, this isn't really that big of an issue to most people. Once again, this is based off my point of view, my views, my opinions. And there have been some decent adversary modes, but there's been a whole bunch of horrible adversary modes added to the game as well. In fact, if you go down that list of adversary modes, it's almost endless. And even though they're adding new ones, like the remix adversary modes now, because they've obviously ran out of ideas, it's just making that list even longer and longer. Now, there are a few exceptions. There are some fun ones, like Hasta La Vista, Overtime Rumble, Deadline, just to name a few of those. But most of them, I'm not really a fan of. I would have preferred more death matches, more survivals, more captures, more LTSs, or more contact missions, because I'm more into PvE than PvP, and I used to love grinding contact missions. I still do when it's double money, but technically we've already kind of sort of got more contact missions in the form of Lamar Lowrider missions, Martin Dispatch missions, VIP work, biker contracts, page client jobs. The point is, I'd rather have more contact missions and some of the other stuff as opposed to more adversary modes. But unfortunately, what we got was a ton of adversary modes, and a lot of them are, in a weird twisted way, variations of death matches and LTSs. They're just in their own weird category that continues to grow and grow and grow. It's not an issue for most people that play Grand Theft Auto Online, but for me, I would have preferred them focus on some of the other things besides adversary modes, because a lot of them aren't very good. Now, before we continue, I realize that there were militarized vehicles added courtesy of the Heist update, including the Hydra, as well as the Insurgent pickup, and, of course, the Valkyrie. Oh, and the Savage. I forgot the Savage. Big, Russian, beautiful, flying broad. How could I forget my love, the Savage? And yes, the Savage definitely could be considered an OP vehicle because it has explosive ammo, it has no cooldown on the missiles, but it's also slow and cumbersome, and you have to be really good at flying the Savage in order to actually use it properly. A lot of people complain that it's no buzzard, it doesn't handle as well, it's not as fast or maneuverable as a buzzard, and my response is no shit. It's still a good helicopter. But the difference here is these are militarized vehicles that, in my opinion, do belong in the game. It makes sense to have the Insurgent pickup with a gun on it, the Valkyrie, a helicopter gunship, as well as the Hydra. By the way, the Hydra has been in the game since the GTA 3D games, so it was already established that the Hydra exists in Grand Theft Auto. That's no shock or surprise for anybody. But later on, you will start to see other types of vehicles added to the game that are not exactly what we would consider to be quote-unquote militarized. Maybe like militarized to some sort of weird sci-fi Saints Row degree. But moving on, let's go to the following updates to Heist's Ill-Gotten Gains Part 1 and 2, which came out a few months later in the summer of 2015. So my opinion is Rockstar just assumed that players were going to have tons of money thanks to the Heist update. They were going to be grinding Pacific Standard, Humane Labs, all the Heist update, and they're going to have plenty of money in the game thanks to this new means of making cash in Grand Theft Auto Online. So I guess it gave Rockstar an excuse to go carte blanche on raising the prices of content, because that's exactly what they started to do with Ill-Gotten Gains Part 1 and 2. Specifically, Ill-Gotten Gains Part 1. You had two very expensive aircraft added to the game. The $10 million Luxor Deluxe, as well as the $5 million Swift Deluxe helicopter. Now, once again, as I pointed out a moment ago, the civilian aircraft in the game do not have any form of countermeasures or protection. They don't have flares. They don't have any of that stuff. That was added later on to the Smuggler's Run update, but most of those vehicles are already militarized. They have ways of defending themselves and fighting back. The Luxor Deluxe, the Swift Deluxe, and all the others, they don't. They're easy targets to be blown out of the sky. And for whatever rhyme or reason, Rockstar decided that people would pay $10 million for a gold jet or $5 million for a golden helicopter. Unfortunately, there were a few that did. I don't know why. Reasons. But something else we saw that transpired in Ill-Gotten Gains Part 1 and 2 was the rise in cost of supercars. To this point, I think the most expensive supercar was, I think, the Adder. And there really wasn't that many supercars in the game to this point. I think the last one that was added was the Zentorno back in spring of 2014. So it's been over a year since we got the last supercar, if I remember correctly. And that was like in the 700,000 price range. Pretty reasonable. So we always hoped that maybe Rockstar would keep the supercars in that $1 million price range. But we were wrong, thanks to Ill-Gotten Gains Part 1 and 2. We saw 2 supercars that were priced in the $2 million range. First off, the Osiris, followed a month later by the T20. Now, ever since then, we've seen supercars fluctuate in price. Some of them have gone down a little bit more reasonable, like the Wagner, $1.7 million. And then there's some like the Tesseract, which is ridiculously expensive. It's very strange how Rockstar decides how much their supercars are going to cost us. Sometimes they're reasonable, and sometimes they're not. Now we head out to the ocean with the executives and other criminals. Now, some good stuff was added with a lot of these updates, and to Rockstar's credit, thank you so much for continuing to put out the updates for over nearly 5 years now, and keeping this game fun and entertaining for most of us. But as we've pointed out already, there are definitely some things that we have issue with. But like I said, I still love Grand Theft Auto Online. Executives saw the introduction of the yacht. Now, this really can't be completely 100% put on Rockstar, because one thing the community has been asking for ever since Grand Theft Auto 5, when they first saw yachts in the game, they wanted their own yacht. They were asking Rockstar, can we have yachts? Can we have mansions? We still don't have mansions yet, but I'm sure Rockstar will eventually give us mansions. As long as they continue updating the game, I get the feeling we'll see mansions sooner or later, and I'm pretty sure those price tags won't be cheap either. So Rockstar acquiesced. They gave us 3 variations of the yacht. Unfortunately, one thing a lot of people came to realize regarding the yacht is it looks pretty. There's a little bit of customization to it, but it doesn't really do anything. You can just go chill on the yacht, hang out in the hot tub, hang out in the bar with your French bartender, get drunk, have a stripper come over and give you a lap dance, jump around the map for what, $25,000 a pop with the yacht. Other than that, besides I think of what, privacy, one of the VIP jobs or biker jobs, one or the other, that's like the only thing you can really do with the yachts. And some people that had buyer's remorse came to realize that they could not sell their yacht. Yes, once you bought the yacht, it was yours forever. Well, till the end of Grand Theft Auto Online. And yeah, some people kind of sort of wish they could at least get some money back for the yachts and for the other properties that has been added to the game. But alas, we have yachts now, for better or worse. And like I said, it's something that the fans were asking for. It would have been nice if they would have added a few more features to the yacht. The ability to play pool, darts, or maybe even go bowling on the yacht. They could put a 2-lane bowling alley on the yacht. It's big enough where they could put it down there somewhere. I don't know where. Just squeeze it down there somewhere. The point is, they could have added maybe at least one type of minigame to the yacht to make it a little bit more interesting. But alas, it's just a big giant boat that just sits there off of Vespucci Beach. Looks pretty, but at the same time, very costly and an unsellable property. And I ranted about unsellable stuff a while back. Moving forward to what's technically the sequel of Executives and Other Criminals, Further Adventures in Finance and Felony. This one added some good stuff too. The CEO buildings, as well as the warehouses, a new way to make money in the game, but it also set another precedent in Grand Theft Auto Online. With the warehouses, we came to realize that you could make money doing warehouses. You'd have to buy an office first, you'd have to be a CEO, then you have to go buy a warehouse in order to start sourcing and eventually selling stuff out of the warehouse. But Rockstar forced the players to grind in public lobbies. And going forward, this became an even more apparent issue for us because it wasn't just the warehouses. That's where it started. It continued with vehicle warehouses from import-export, the biker businesses, arms from gun running, hangars from Smuggler's Run, the Doomsday Heist prep work, and most recently, the cell missions in the nightclub warehouses. All that has to be done in public lobbies. And what's really sad is Rockstar encourages other players to go after you when you're sourcing and selling in a public lobby. And that's why so many of us have been spending a lot of time jumping from lobby to lobby trying to find a nice, quiet, small, solo public lobby to do our grinding in so we're not bothered by griefers and tryhards. But unfortunately, Rockstar wants the griefers and tryhards to come after you. They reward them. They encourage them. They get phone calls. They get messages when somebody is doing a source job or a sale job on the map if they're in the same public lobby with you. And yes, I realize this is slowly devolving into a rant. That's not what I was trying to do. I'm just stating another point where this game went wrong. Not with the sourcing and selling businesses, the grinding, the ability to make money in this game, because things are obviously getting more expensive with each passing update. It's that Rockstar forced us to do all that in a public lobby when they could have easily allowed us the option of doing it in a friend or an invite lobby so we wouldn't be bothered by griefers and tryhards. Wow, GeauxBurns, a lot of things have gone wrong in Grand Theft Auto Online, haven't they? Well, we're not quite done yet. Okay, so drip feeding content, which was basically initiated with the Lowriders Custom Classics update. Not to be confused with the Lowriders update, which was a lot better. Lowriders Custom Classics was like the cheap, like made for DVD or VHS sequel to Lowriders. It wasn't as good. A minivan Lowrider, Rockstar? Really? Anyways, so this introduced drip feeding to Grand Theft Auto Online. Now this is one I'm kind of on the fence about. On one hand, there's part of me that would love to have all the content out day one, but at the same time, it does encourage players to keep playing the game, several weeks or months later by them drip feeding the content. Several vehicles that remain locked, as well as additional like adversary modes and some other unlockable items like t-shirts, liveries for vehicles, etc. So this is a difficult one for me because I get it. I understand why Rockstar does it. But the problem is a lot of times there's vehicles that we really, really want that are not available day one of the update. And that sucks. So we have to wait patiently for a few weeks, sometimes a month or longer before we get that vehicle that we've been craving since the update came out. Because the data miners, they go find this stuff like FunMW2, Yan, others like that. Because it's on PC, they're able to go through the data, the files, and find the locked content. And it just makes us thirsty for that stuff. And unfortunately, it's not available for most people day one. So I can see it both ways when it comes to drip feeding. It's not a big issue regarding what went wrong in Grand Theft Auto Online. And in fact, some people can make the argument that it does technically save you money because you find out what's coming and how much that's going to cost and whether or not you actually want it or not, and allows you some time to save up for that new vehicle. That will be drip fed out eventually. Gun running! Gun running, like I mentioned, also added a new way to make money. The arms trade, which you can make some pretty decent money at if you grind it. All these you can make money at. Just depends on if you want to be like the professional or some other content creators and really get into the grinding. I'm kind of an amateur grinder. I do grind, but usually it's when it's double money and I feel the motivation to do it then. But at the same time, one thing that I ranted about as well, yes, I've ranted about a few things that are tying into this video, is research. Oh, God, research. So, research was horrible. I did not like research, as most of you know. And I think the majority of the Grand Theft Auto Online community agrees. I feel like that they could have just easily made all that available for us to get. Just day one, the different liveries, the different weapon upgrades, the ammo. Well, maybe with some of this stuff, instead of research, which was obviously paywalled, it was set because of the fact that if you wanted to research something, you would have to wait patiently for that particular thing to be researched. You couldn't pick and choose. Once again, I went over that in a rant. So let's not go there. If you guys want to see my points of view about the research overall, just check out the rant video. All right, so a few things were added that I didn't really have an issue with, and I think that they could have done this like do a rank system where when you reach a certain rank, you could have unlocked these liveries or weapon upgrades as well as vehicle upgrades and the ammo. upgrades. See, that would have been really awesome because that's something that a lot of us have been asking Rockstar to do for a while now. Those of us that are veterans to the game, that have been playing it for a while now, that are way past the ranks of 120, that's when the last thing unlocks for you, the minigun. It would have just been a cool reward if Rockstar would have just made this stuff, the various liveries, vehicle upgrades, and weapons, as well as the different ammo based off your rank as opposed to doing research. One of those items that was included with the research was the explosive ammo, which unfortunately has been used by griefers and tryhards. So yeah, the explosive ammo, which you could add courtesy of the gun running update and through research to your heavy sniper, definitely has been something that other players have used to their advantage against each other. And I'm not a fan of explosive ammo, but then again, there were a lot of us that were asking Rockstar for various types of ammo rounds to be added to the game. So unfortunately, just like with the yachts, this is another prime example of us getting what we want. And as the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for. Now, backtracking a little bit to the LTS update, Last Team Standing, there was a particular weapon that was added that some would probably add to this list about things that have gone wrong with Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, whether or not you believe that to be true is entirely up to you. The Marksman Rifle, this sniper rifle, not as powerful as the sniper, but it's a semi-auto, and a lot of players have been able to use it to their advantage in PvP combat to win the day. It's not as bad as some of the stuff that's coming in this list, but at the same time, some would make the argument that the Marksman Rifle, similar to the homing launcher, are two early examples of where things started to go wrong in Grand Theft Auto Online. But whether or not you agree with that is your opinion entirely. Now let's talk about the constant phone calls and notifications. Yes, I did a rant about this as well. I think it was like 6 months ago, and it's only gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better, not by a long shot. So we got so much stuff in the game now with Heist, Doomsday Heist, the gun running update, the biker businesses, the hangars, the CEO office, the warehouses, the vehicle warehouses, the nightclub. I'm sure I left something out. Oh yeah, the Terabyte most recently, where you have all these characters from Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto Online and previous Grand Theft Autos calling us and nagging us to purchase this, or to go work on the nightclub, or to do client jobs on the Terabyte, or to go do biker business stuff because your stuff is running low. It never ends. Not only do you have the constant nagging via phone calls from Lester, Ron, Agent 14, Malk, LJT, Gay Tony, Paige Harris, a few others as well. You also have notification pop-ups happening all the time. Once again, went over that in a rant video, so you can go watch that if you feel so inclined. But still, it's another example where I feel like Grand Theft Auto Online has gone wrong, because there's no way for us to cut down on the notifications. There's no way to block these people from calling you. I wish you had that ability, because it gets freaking annoying. And what's worse, a lot of people in the game that may have just started over the past few weeks or months, or even the past year, they're still relatively new, they don't have as much money, and they're being nagged and harassed by these characters and notifications to buy a bunker, our CEO building, our biker clubhouse, our businesses, or a hangar, or a facility to do doomsday heists, etc. It just goes on, and in my opinion, it's kind of harassing and a major turnoff for people playing Grand Theft Auto Online. It turns me off all the freaking time. So I really wish that there was a way we could, actually block those people from calling us. So you no longer had Lester or Ron, Agent 14, Malk, LJT, Gay Tony, Paige Harris, or the others calling you, nagging you over and over again. It's definitely one of the reasons why I think things have gone wrong in Grand Theft Auto Online. Even though you've been called by others in the past, like Gerald, Lamar, Martin, it wasn't to the same degree as it is now. Now let's talk about something else that has really taken Grand Theft Auto Online off the rails. If this game was ever on the rails to begin with, this definitely took it way off course. The orbital cannon. added with the Doomsday Heist. And yes, I did rant about the Doomsday Heist, in which I included the orbital cannon as one of my grievances regarding what I knew this thing was going to be. They just put it in the game day one. The moment I read about this, I was like, oh no, this is going to be used by the tryhards and the griefers to go after innocent players that are just trying to enjoy the game, whether they're just driving around, flying around, doing car shows, or grinding. This is going to be used against those players. Now, sometimes the opposite is true. Regular players will use them in acts of revenge against the griefers and tryhards, but most of the time, that's not the case. The orbital cannon is a very OP weapon and is mostly used by griefers and tryhards, and in my opinion, should have never been added to Grand Theft Auto Online. Yes, I realize it's used in the Act 3 finale, and Rockstar had to justify its existence, not just simply for Act 3 finale, and somebody thought it'd be a cool idea to add this to online as well. Unfortunately, it really wasn't a cool idea, Rockstar. No, it was not. And finally, let's talk about the vehicles that are beyond militarized. OP vehicles, experimental vehicles, sci-fi, Saints Row-esque vehicles. It all began with one of my favorite cars, sadly. I loved this car when I was a kid. I used to watch Knight Rider all the time. I loved Kit. But I don't know if this is actually Kit. I think this is car that they added. Kit's archenemy. The Ruiner 2000 from Import Export. Yes, I know most of us love the Ruiner 2000, but this car is where it began. But GeauxBurns, they also added the Blazer Aqua and the Tanaquil Aqua. Well, do you really consider those two to be OP? The Blazer Aqua, yes, it can go in and out of the water. It's amphibious. It has weak machine guns on it. I don't really consider that to be OP at all. It's a fun vehicle. I liked it at first, you know, being able to like drive around on land and then just for fun jump into the water without having your vehicle lost, and then bouncing on the waves like a jet ski, then back on the ground like a four-wheeler. It's fun, but no way do I consider this to be at the same level as some of the other OP vehicles we're about to go over. The Tanaquil Aqua, yeah, it has a big honking gun on it, but it's very slow and an extremely easy target, so those two don't really count. The Ruiner 2000, however, was the prototype. It was the beginning of the OP vehicles that were to come in the game. This thing has really good accuracy when it comes to the missiles. Extremely accurate. Puts the Buzzard, the Lasers missiles, the Savages missiles even to shame with how accurate those missiles are. It's crazy. It also came with machine guns. Machine guns, yeah, not very good, but it also had the ability to jump and the ability to pull out a parachute. Those things are fun. But as you can tell, the Ruiner 2000 represented the beginning of the quote-unquote OP vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online, especially when you do the VIP work that is known as fully loaded. The original intention was just another VIP job that you could do in free mode, earn some money within the time limit, but a lot of people came to quickly realize that the fully loaded version of the Ruiner 2000 was extremely OP and very indestructible. And so, the fully loaded Ruiner 2000 started being used against other players, justified or unjustified, thus making the Ruiner 2000 even more OP than it already was. But as I said, the Ruiner 2000 was just the beginning, and by comparison to some of the other vehicles, yeah, small potatoes. Sometime later, I think about a year ago, we got the Oppressor Mark I. Now, when I first saw an image of the Oppressor Mark I didn't really think much of it. And back then, it was just the Oppressor. It was a bike with a rocket on it. I thought, who the hell's going to use this? Are they kidding themselves? What kind of silly nonsense is this? Because the only thing it can do is it can go like really fast, or it can go into the air and glide a little bit. Now, you can get really good at gliding in the Oppressor, but what we didn't realize was how deadly the missiles on the Oppressor were going to be. So it became a favorite of the tryhards and the griefers in Grand Theft Auto Online. And then Doomsday came around and added a few vehicles. The Stromberg, I considered an OP vehicle because, yes, it has missiles on it as well that are very good. It can take some damage. It can also go under the water because it's a submersible. But it doesn't get as used the same way or more correctly, abused as the Deluxo. Now, I love the Deluxo because I'm a Back to the Future fan. I love the DeLorean. And it was really cool to see the Deluxo return because originally it was featured in Grand Theft Auto Vice City. What I was not expecting was the Deluxo to have a hover conversion system and weapons. The hover conversion system, I think most of us probably would have been happy with. Been kind of cool because it's an homage to Back to the Future 2. But when Rockstar decided, you know what, hover conversion system on the Deluxo is not enough. We have to add machine guns and really OP missiles to this thing as well. And yes, these are tools that can be used by good players and bad sports as well. And that's the way I look at the Deluxo, as well as the Oppressor, the Ruiner 2000. It's just a vehicle, it's a tool that can be used one way or the other. I use the Deluxo a lot. I use the Oppressor Mark II a lot. But not to go after other players, unless it's in retaliation. However, unfortunately, the Deluxo does get used against other players that are just trying to enjoy free mode, doing, as I mentioned, various activities, VIP work, client jobs, as well as sourcing and selling. Sometimes you'll see a Deluxo heading your way, and 9 times out of 10, they don't exactly have the best of intentions. The same can be said about the Oppressor, as well as, most recently, the Oppressor Mark II, aka the Broomstick. Now, this is a very Saints Row-esque vehicle. I believe it was Saints Row the 3rd that the jet bike was introduced in, and in that game, it was definitely one of my favorite vehicles. It was so fun to take it from the penthouse and just fly it around and just wreak havoc with the jet bike. I forgot exactly what it was called, but the same premise here with the Oppressor Mark II. And it has very good missiles on it as well. Bear in mind, some of these vehicles, there is a limitation to how many missiles you can have. Unlike with the Laser, the Hydra, as well as the Buzzard, the Savage, they have unlimited missiles. These are limited. So to Rockstar's credited, they could have made them unlimited as well, but they chose not to. Hooray for Rockstar. Still, the Oppressor Mark II has become the latest vehicle that has been abused by the tryhards and the griefers in Grand Theft Auto Online. And the Scramjet is also technically an OP vehicle as well. It has machine guns on it, it has very good rockets on it, and it has the ability to not only jump like the Ruiner 2000, it has a boost so you can actually take it into the air and kind of sort of fly it to some degree before it crashes to the ground. You can use this to grief and troll other players in Grand Theft Auto Online, but the Scramjet's nowhere near as bad as, say, the Oppressor Mark II or the Deluxo. And finally, we'll mention the Thruster Jetpack because it does technically fall into this category. However, it was introduced in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and to be honest, it's not as good as we were hoping. But still, I consider the Thruster Jetpack to be part of that list of OP vehicles. Now, the question we must ask ourselves as we bring this discussion to a close is, would Grand Theft Auto Online be a better game if Rockstar wouldn't have done some of this stuff? Unfortunately, we can't change history. We don't have a time machine like Doc Brown, but at the same time, I feel like if the OP vehicles were never introduced, if there was no orbital cannon in the game, if we weren't getting so many constant phone calls and notifications, at the very least, if we didn't have that crap to deal with in Grand Theft Auto Online, this would most definitely be a much more enjoyable game. You'd still have people going around tryharding, killing you with lasers, hydras, buzzards, savages, driving around in supercars with sticky bombs like they were back in early on 2013 all the way to 2014 before the heist update came out, but still it wouldn't be as bad as it is today. And it really does make me wonder if Rockstar is going to continue updating Grand Theft Auto Online post Red Dead Redemption 2 going into December in 2019. What else do they have in store for us? The very thought is enticing, while at the same time, it kind of gives me the fear. Anyways, feel free, chime in, let me know your thoughts regarding where Grand Theft Auto Online went wrong below in the comments section.